Hello again, and welcome to our regular Wednesday night stint. My name is Jason McComb, and this is a repurposed video because I had a few problems with this one. I had my son come in, and so I thought I'll do another one, and so this is a re-record. We'll start first of all. Let's crack on with the presentation. Bring myself in. Hi. And we're going to start off with our normal questions as per usual. So the first question is, are you still operating the 2 metre rule? So there's our first question for 10. Are you still operating the 2 metre rule? And are you wearing face masks while installing? So leave your comments in the video comments box, in the YouTube box if you'd like. That would be great. So hello and welcome. So we're going to go through some of the PPE that you'll still require as part of COVID. Field service, we'll talk about field service installs. We'll talk about workshop etiquette whilst doing COVID, and we'll go straight into some questions and answers which I know were talked about at the time. So first of all, talking about face masks. FFP stands for filtering face piece mask. So we talk about the FFP sort of level is how much airborne particles it will filtrate. FFP1, as you can see, is 80%. The FFP2 is 94%, and that's the equivalent of what is known as a KN95 mask. So when we talk about a KN95, it's actually the percentage of aerosol particles. That's 95% that it stops, basically. Filters, should we say. And then FFP3 is filters 99% of airborne particles. Now, right at the very start, if you remember, we were told about which does what and which is going to do the best job. I would say if you're a vulnerable person, you should be wearing an FFP3. So if you're vulnerable to this COVID disease, and so that means that if you're working, then you should be using that type of mask. However, the general consensus is a face covering, just a face covering will do. So I've got the type of face covering we talk about here, and that's something like this, which is, like you can see, it's just a generic face covering. I've got this one here, but this is a washable one. I carry about 3 or 4 of these, and then as I go from one job to another, I just change over and use each one particularly. That's all you need to make sure that you do. You only need that type of mask. It's just to safeguard yourself, and and to stop the excessive level of airborne particles out there if you have got COVID. It will protect you a little bit from particles, but the main thing that can we talked about just a moment ago is distance. If you can keep your distance away from the customer, then you're basically onto a winner at that point. So that's the key thing here, the key message here. Other PPE, well, the suggestion is that you can use gloves, latex disposable, and then overalls, and which you can remove after you finish the job. And then the next thing is hand gel, and you want a minimum of 70% alcohol. So we're talking about these type of latex gloves. These are the ones I use, and then there's 2 examples of alcohol-based hand sanitizer. I do like this one. This has got this is a Baylis and Harding one. The great thing about it is because I don't know whether you, I have sensitive skin, and this type of stuff really does because it's so because it's just alcohol, pure alcohol, doesn't have a lot of moisturiser in. This does have a little bit of hand moisturiser in it. So if you have got a skin condition, then I find that this is a much better sort of solution, or a much better alternative to having to use the hand gel all the time. So that's the PPE that you'd need. The next level is to talk about VPE, or I like to call it VPE, which is vehicle protective equipment. So you're talking about seat covers, steering wheel covers, and then for the actual job, when you've done the job, I would suggest like either anti-bac cleaner or anti-bac wipes. And then you could also consider something that I've been introduced today, which is a sanitizer bomb, basically, which is it's an aerosol, and you spray it all the way inside the vehicle, leave it 20 minutes, and then it's basically sanitized and free from any nasty bugs or anything. So that's a new thing that I've seen, or new thing that I've been made aware of today. So when you're doing field service work, it's very key that you try to sort of adhere to this type of advice. So I would say call in advance to announce that you're on your way. Check with the customer to see if they've had COVID or are showing symptoms as well. And then while you're on site, maintain that 2 metre distance. Ask them to leave keys on the seats. Don't take any signatures. You don't need to. Clean all the surfaces, as we talked about. And then I would say also that you need to keep a contact trace record. So if you do contract the virus, you can then forward that back. And in the workshop, it's maintaining social distance. Wash your hands regularly. Avoid face-to-face contact if you can. Even with your work colleague, if you can, sort of do a side or back-facing sort of talk if you're talking to them. If you can't socially distant, wear one of these. Wear your face mask. Contactless clean. I think contactless payment's very key as well. Got to make sure that's all kept clean, because obviously that comes in contact with the cleaning. And then you may need to look at doing sort of creating areas where the customer will be, and then sort of, so if you're customer facing, like the counters, the reception areas and stuff, you may consider after having to put perspex like what you see in most of the areas that we see. But I've also seen a lot where I've been going. I've also seen the option where you walk into a venue that they'll ask you to wear a face mask in the same way as now when you're going to the shops. So I've seen a couple of places where I've visited where they've actually suggested that you wear a face mask. So that's something to think about moving forward. And what happens if we get COVID? Well, if you do, then you've got to have all those options in place. So you should have your contact tracing or what have you. I would consider doing the deep clean, and then unfortunately it's the 14 days then where you have to spend on self-isolation, then off work whilst the virus is clear. If you do need any more information, I do have the PDFs available, and I will put a link to them on the bottom of the YouTube site, with a link to the PDFs that are available from the government website about field service and about workshop etiquette and what have you. But you can get it off the gov.uk website as well. And that's it for tonight, folks. There's your COVID-19 update. Next week, we're going to talk about pet regs and ADR vehicles. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.